I think we can start. Let me introduce you the speakers. First of all, the moderator, Mrs. Laurence Quark, Secretary General of GSEF. Welcome to the stage. Txomin García jauna, Laboral Kutxako presidentea eta kreditu kooperatiben batasun nazionaleko presidente ordea. Ongi etorri. Mr. Paul Ladd, Director at UNRISD, United Nations Research Institute for Social Development. Welcome to the stage. Mr. Markkula, First Vice President at the European Committee of the Regions. Welcome to the stage. Ms. Antonella Noya, Head of Unit Innovation and Social Economy, OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Buongiorno. Mr. Franz Wolfmayr, former President of the European Association of Service Providers for Persons with Disabilities. Hello, good morning, welcome. Ms. Maude Marquis-Bissonnette, City Councilor of Gatineau, in charge of social economy in Canada, from Canada. Bonjour et bienvenue. And Ms. Margie Mendell, Professor and Vice Principal of the School of Community and Public Affairs in Concordia University. Welcome. The title of the closing plenary session is Towards a Sustainable and Inclusive Development Through Social Economy. Enjoy the discussion.
Thank you very much. I think we are living in an environment which is very dynamic and very demanding, which challenges us all as actors of social economy, but also offers an incredible opportunity for growth and innovation. I think we lived this during the last 2 days here in this forum of Bilbao, by sharing of our experience and practices, but also reflecting collectively on our challenges and common values. The biannual forum of GSEF offers precisely a space of this dialogue and debate with all stakeholders, not only to revise our practice of past and present, but also to project the social economy to play a role of leading driver of change and transformation of our economy and also society for the well-being of our communities. I think the theme of this forum has been the social economy and cities, how we could keep our values and competitiveness in favor of inclusive and sustainable development. I think this is a final plenary section, and it's probably a time also to share and evaluate with our panelists. And I would like to first ask to Txomin, who is the president of Laboral Kutxa, main bank of Mondragon Group. What are the main highlights or main events that give you a clear idea of how we could leverage our capacity of response as social economy actor in favor of inclusive and sustainable development?
Thank you. Buenos días. En primer lugar, mi gratitud a GSEF por la invitación a participar en un evento de esta importancia y también mi agradecimiento a Bilbao por haberlo hecho posible. Respecto a qué destacaría sobre GSEF 2018, sin duda alguna es el logro de haber reunido a más de 1.700 personas provenientes de los 5 continentes, guiados por un objetivo común: cómo poder contribuir desde la economía social a un modelo de sociedad más justa. Estamos viviendo una época caracterizada por una de las mayores crisis económicas de la historia reciente. El discurso económico ha acaparado todo el foco de atención y ha restado protagonismo a otras crisis concurrentes tanto o más relevantes. Una profunda crisis de valores, crisis medioambiental, la insostenibilidad social de la creciente desigualdad y, sobre todo, a los efectos que esta crisis económica ha tenido sobre la vida de millones de personas. El hecho de que gran parte de la sociedad mundial esté de acuerdo con una serie de conceptos basados en la igualdad, la justicia social, la conservación del planeta, no lleva directamente a su cumplimiento. Es necesario ser activistas. Por eso quiero felicitar a los organizadores de esta iniciativa por la trascendencia y oportunidad de la misma y dar las gracias a los que habéis sido los verdaderos protagonistas de estas jornadas, los hombres y mujeres que habéis participado activamente en las mismas. Estos 3 intensos días ha habido muchos talleres y actividades. La economía social es tan rica y diversa como la propia sociedad. Y precisamente el gran valor de este foro, desde mi punto de vista, es haber aglutinado una muestra tan representativa de todo ello. Educación, igualdad, políticas públicas, medio ambiente, innovación, sostenibilidad. Yo confío en que estos días, la experiencia que habéis vivido, el intercambio de experiencias, hayan respondido a las expectativas de cada uno. Para algunos, los que veníais buscando nuevas ideas, nuevas experiencias para seguir profundizando en el desarrollo de la economía social, pues que podáis volver a vuestros lugares de origen con la agenda llena de deberes, ideas y la ilusión para seguir profundizando en el desarrollo del modelo de economía social. Otros tal vez sois más pioneros en vuestros lugares de origen y os estáis encontrando con tremendas dificultades para poner en marcha este tipo de iniciativas. Bueno, deciros que sepáis que no estáis solos en esta tarea. Los principios y valores de la economía social trascienden las culturas, la política, los problemas idiomáticos, configurando una gran familia, una causa en la que todos y todas estamos comprometidos con la economía social y vamos de la mano. Pasando a la segunda parte de la pregunta, en mi opinión, los aspectos claves para defender los valores que alberga la economía social y propiciar con ellos un desarrollo local inclusivo y sostenible son la cooperación y la competitividad. El gran reto de que la economía social vaya alcanzando un protagonismo cada vez más relevante en la actividad económico-social va a requerir de una gran dosis de cooperación. El ámbito de la educación, poderes públicos, cooperativas, demás agentes de la economía social, debemos ir de la mano, demostrando y probando a la sociedad que además de ser un modelo socialmente más justo y con capacidad de cubrir cada vez más áreas de la actividad económica social, es sostenible y para ello tenemos que ser competitivos, tenemos que ser eficaces. Es cierto que el éxito de un modelo económico-social no debe medirse solo por la capacidad de generar valor económico, sino que debe incluir también la utilidad social. Pero la variable competitividad es irrenunciable y constituye, en mi opinión, uno de los vectores principales que posibilitará el crecimiento sostenible del propio modelo de economía social. Llevo 40 años, no soy tan mayor, empecé muy joven, en el grupo Mondragón, grupo caracterizado por un modelo de cooperativa de trabajo asociado con actividades en las áreas de finanzas, industria, distribución, educación e investigación, compitiendo en una economía de mercado global. Y puedo acreditar que es totalmente compatible ser competitivos en una economía de mercado con los principios y valores que nos identifican, la solidaridad, la cooperación y el compromiso social. Creo firmemente en ello y creo que, en mi opinión, son los ejes principales. Cooperar en el ámbito de la economía social desde un punto de vista de saber que podemos y tenemos la capacidad y las habilidades para ser competitivos en un mundo que no está predominado precisamente por la economía social. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Txomin García. Now I would like to ask to the Paul Ladd, the director of the UNRISD, UN Research Institute for Social Development, as an organization who has to advise UN agencies as well as member states on social policies. I guess that this theme has been very important. What are the main highlights for you of this forum, which gave you a clear idea how you could play a better role?
Thank you, Lawrence. Well, good morning, everybody. And first of all, let me say thank you to GSEF and to all the organizers of the conference. It takes a lot of work to put on something as big and as important as this, so thank you. For those of you who don't know UNRISD, we are the UN Research Institute for Social Development. We're based in Geneva. We're an autonomous research institute within the UN system that focuses on the social policy dimensions of development challenges and issues. But we conceive of social policy and social development very broadly, in that it, of course, is inseparable from economic structures, from economic institutions and dynamics, and from our use of the environment and natural resources. Now, within the UN system, UNRISD has a growing portfolio of research on the social and solidarity economy, and we were instrumental, I think, in getting that work off the ground in the UN system with the support of others, such as the ILO, the FAO. We held a conference in 2013 on SSE, and then we've also been instrumental in helping the UN task force on SSE have leverage within the broader UN system. So from that perspective, given our positioning in the UN, obviously a voice at the global level, I think what's been really important for me in this conference and for my UNRISD colleagues here has been once again the strength of the community that's gathered here in solidarity, the shared values that they have in the activities that they commit their whole lives to on a daily basis, their commitment to social and environmental justice, to democratic principles, to dialogue and to peace. And I think it's been important also, in line with, and I won't go into them again, but the very many challenges that the world is facing, demographic changes, technological changes, environmental degradation and climate change, political polarization in many countries, particularly in Europe and North America. It's important to have a feeling that this counter movement is also growing in scale in response to that and because of these principles. And I think there's been a strong feeling of that here. I think a third thing that's been important for me, and I've tried to attend as many events as possible with this particular angle, has been the engagement of young people in the community. It's very hard to stay in touch with how the world is changing for young people. The threats to their engagement in political life, in economic life, how they connect with different people and communities with new technologies. And so I think it's been, again, very affirmative for us to feel that young people are, in a way, at least as committed to those principles as we are, and are taking forward the movement in an incredibly progressive way. And it strikes me that giving more voice to young people in this community through forthcoming forums is going to be a very important part. And then lastly, as a research institute, we love examples. We love concrete examples of things that people are trying, that are working, also that are not working, whether it's in rural areas or cities, so that we can learn from how they've been structured, the history that sits behind them, the cultural, political, and economic determinants that led to the shape of those activities. And I think that helps us then in our research. So do we have clear ideas on how to go forward? I would say increasingly, yes. We have strong insights on how the movement is growing and how it can be successful. UNRISD's most recent publication on SSE was presented yesterday, and it's the analysis of the ecosystem in Seoul on the social economy. And we've learned a lot through that report, I think, especially on the importance of the co-creation of the policy and institutional architecture that supports SE. I do think we can do more though, and I hope this doesn't sound unpopular or critical. But you know, GSEF, this meeting is the forum for the movement. It's a place to come together, to display the energy, to present concrete examples. And I think the majority of the ones that we've listened to here have all been very positive. I've put all our best sides on the table. And the incentives to do that are very strong. We do that as UNRISD as well. This is a safe space, I think, for the movement, and we need that. And there are very few detractors here. And I think in the spirit of that safe space, it should also be a place where we can talk about failures, where we can talk about things that we've tried that have actually not worked so well because they've not been economically sustainable, they've not been competitive enough to sort of cut it. Maybe it's been reliant on one or two sources of funding which have not been sustainable. Maybe political competitiveness stopped them from working. Maybe they didn't take root. But I do believe that we have as much to learn from things that haven't worked as we have from things that have worked very well. And I think for me, it will be important to retain a degree of self-criticality and self-reflection as we go forward. And I think that will only strengthen the movement overall. And so to link that round to my last point, which is really about research, and I hope, again, it's not too self-serving, but as many people have said so far in these 3 days, we do need to evolve how we measure, I believe, the impacts of our enterprises, of our social economy entities. And, you know, traditional indicators, even used by large corporates now, increasingly look at social and environmental impact. But there's an added value of the social economy which is not being measured in these traditional approaches. And I think that's about participation, it's about democratic engagement, it's about whether the activities of that entity serve to reduce inequalities over time rather than grow them. And that's why these things aren't generally in corporate indicator sets, because those are the things that those big entities are not so good at. So in summary, it's been a fabulous experience. I really appreciate the invite to come here and talk. I do think that research can play an important role. Research also needs to look at things that haven't worked as well as things that have worked well, and I hope we can do that in the future.
Thank you very much, Paul. Now I would like to move to Mr. Markku. You are the first Vice President of the European Committee of Regions, and I think this forum, the GSEF, is a network which brings the cities and all the stakeholders of social economy, and there have been some of those European regions who were present here, but not so many. And I don't know whether during this forum that you had more clear ideas or insight how we could bring these two entities to work in a partnership in favor of inclusive and sustainable development. Could you share with us?
Thank you for, and let me first say that the role of Bilbao and Basque Country has been very instrumental, not only today, but as well I've been and we have been here in many events linked to sustainable development and how to integrate the latest research to new innovations, how to encourage innovativeness and creativity in general. And from that perspective, I think that this event has been hopefully even a strong learning opportunity for all of us. And more we at the Committee of the Region, because we represent in the EU decision-making all the European cities and regions. So we have very strongly that perspective on what should happen in the near future and a long term as well. So I would like, from that perspective, really stress the need that we need, what we have heard here, elements for more systematic approach. And what Paul just said about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, so all those 17 need to be tackled, but that happens through the people. And on that, so this kind of concrete measures that has been very much seen and heard here, discussed here, during the coffee breaks and other events as well. So it's not only the panels, but this brings people together who have a strong willingness and more now commitment to move to action. Take some of the key elements from here home to our own organizations, to our own cities, whatever communities of practice we are operating. And I think this is one of the strong benefits, and that's why the association, in a way, organizing the forums need to continue strongly on getting people together. What good example of this is that yesterday evening we had a special session on going local, where we had 32 what we call the European piloting regions on this social economy. European Commission, DG GROW, has organized this, invited through a certain procedure, these regions, and this was really very refreshing and awareness-raising event. So when we heard and discussed about the experience, because these regions committed on this piloting just recently, so now it's organizing an event in all of those regions and bring the European perspective strongly on that. And one of the strong outcomes was and is now that we really can learn much more. So it's not only to know, but it's more like a bench learning process. And that's what we discussed. We had there the representative from Gabrovo, a small town in more or less northern part of Bulgaria. They are organizing this later this week, a special innovation camp, focusing on a 3-day camp, focusing on many of these challenges and now contributing, having close to 100 people from different parts of Europe, but especially locally and other parts of Bulgaria, to join tackling 3 defined challenges. So not to try to solve a problem, but analyzing these challenges and moving then to concrete implementation plans. And we discussed there yesterday evening quite a lot, so that let's use this, what is already produced, a special 150-page kind of handbook, guidebook on organizing and experiencing these innovation camps as a methodology. Mm-hmm. That's a joint initiative and publication now with the EU Joint Research Centre and the Committee of the Regions. And that gives so that we are not starting every event from the scratch or only from a small perspective, but seeing this methodological approach. And this was discussed, why not to use more this kind of approach, so that those 32 piloting regions, we define a few challenges and then invite the others to join on this kind of camp structure then, because that leads concretely to the measures for implementation. And that is something that I would like to link now strongly to these UN Sustainable Development Goals, because there are many activities going on, but we need more commitment and awareness. And part of that is what my city, Espoo, the western part of our Helsinki metropolitan region, we are one of the pioneers. UN has called 25 cities in 5 different categories to kind of go integrate more experience, research, knowledge, organize research as well, how to speed up achieving the UN SDGs, so that we could be there already 5 years earlier, not 2030, because there we need to put the ambition level, especially on climate change, much higher than the ambition level is at the moment. And that means that we need to have this joint actions based on the latest knowledge, how to do that. And on that, so one of those 5 city categories is really operating with the universe, the kind of university cities, and that's where we Espoo are with the Palo Alto, with Cambridge, Heidelberg, and Noida from India. And our role is not only to do something for ourselves, but really do mentoring and guiding and on that side. How then these kind of activities that are going on, we could integrate more on this social enterprise development, and that is something we know already by now that in Europe we have something like 2 million social economy enterprises. They represent 10% of businesses, all businesses, and involve more than 10, 11 million workers. So, and that seems to be now very strongly increasing, and that's one of the outcomes. We are more convinced than ever by what we have heard. And this means that we look social innovations, societal innovations, and that's where I want to conclude now, that the role of all governance levels is important. EU level, now when we are negotiating the proposals of the Commission on the next multi-annual financial framework, so many of those new programs with the strong financing instruments, how that financing is more kind of catalyzing and enabling the activities at the city and regional level, because the action needs to be strongly there, and that means that these social enterprises and all this, thinking here, so we all are part of this, even calling that a movement, and increasing this and using the resources and these catalyzing instruments in a synergistic format. So I think this is the key message from here that I can bring back to the Committee of the Region and encourage our members to take the same message back to their own cities and regions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Markkula. Now I would like to, yes, let's give you a big applause. Now I would like to move to Ms. Antonella Noia. You are the head of social economy and innovation at the OECD, which is to many people in the South, a very strong club of rich countries. What are the main, thoughts and highlights of this forum that gave you for the OECD?
Thank you very much, Lawrence. I have been really happy to have been invited here, because I think that this global forum has represented an extraordinary opportunity for each of us to share, to learn, and I am persuaded that each of us is bringing home contacts and ideas and opportunity also to challenge our ideas and our wisdom. And I very much appreciate also the fact that you have asked international organizations to join you and to have an active role in this forum, UN agency, OECD, European Commission, because I think that this recognizes also the fact that we are part of this value chain that can help improving social economy, each of us using not only our expertise, but our missions. For OECD, the mission is to assist governments to shape their policies. And my work is exactly this, assisting the government at national and subnational level to design and implement their policies on social economy. And this is, in fact, one of the main highlights, the main takeaway that I bring with me is the fact that through all the conversation, we understand again how important is the role of public policies in this area. And of course, both national and local governments have an important role to play. But what I see is that, in fact, cities and localities have, I would say, a competitive advantage compared to national policies, because cities and localities are closer to people, are closer to the problem, and possibly are also closer to the solution. Why? Because they have this capacity to mobilize people, to tap into citizen knowledge, including tacit knowledge, and also to mobilize and to partner with this. So ultimately, this could really allow cities and regions to shape more tailored policies that really touch upon the specificity of the territories. And I think that this is very important. I think that everyone here is aware, and that we have had a demonstration of this, listening to many speakers coming from different countries, how contextual is, how context sensitive is social economy. So it is really important that organizations which are rooted into their territory really help to shape the solution that their territory needs. And having said this, I think that there is important that national and local policies are well connected. Sometimes in OECD countries we see that there are misconnection and sometimes even disconnection, and this is unfortunate. And during some workshop, I have heard cities saying, we are supporting social economy or social entrepreneurship or social innovation. We are trying to build ecosystem, but if we had national policies helping us to frame this would be an important asset for us. This would make our role easier. And of course, this is, I think, one important element that policymakers should have in mind when they build ecosystem for social economy. The process of building this ecosystem is equally important as the ecosystem itself. So they need to cooperate among them. Sometimes OECD see ministries working in silos, do not communicating each other, while obviously social economy is a transversal issue. So this social economy approach could be mainstreamed in the different policy areas. It touches upon health, education, employment, transport, and so on and so forth. So every minister should start a dialogue on how to mainstream social economy. And the same applied also for the coordination between the different levels of governance. So this is the first highlight that I will certainly bring with me for further reflection and action for OECD to continue trying to steer this kind of approach among governments. And the second element is thinking a bit on how cities and social economy can work together. And of course, we have heard a lot of interesting initiatives, cities partnering with social economy organizations to provide social finance, city helping create support structure with social economy organization to foster a number of social innovators. And I would like to offer an additional opportunities for cities, regions, and social economy to work together, which is a new tool that the European Commission and the OECD have been preparing for the last 3 years in cooperations with representatives of social economy and cities. I can mention one, which is REVS, but there are others. We have been working also with the European Economic Social Committee. So the idea is to invite cities and regions to use this online tool, which is a self-assessment tool on the local ecosystem for social economy. So it is not a tool, a benchmarking tool. It is not a tool that helps social economy to be established. It's a tool which helps policymakers and social economy in a territory to get together, to analyze the situation through a number of statements which we have prepared, and then to start discuss. And we have tested this tool in a number of cities, and honestly, I must say that they have been very happy to use it, not because possibly it provides the solution to all the problems, but because it helps them to ask themselves the right question, and then to start a conversation and a dialogue on how things could be improved together. So this tool will be launched next week in Brussels at the European Week on Cities and Regions. So it will be live starting on October the 9th. And I invite every cities and regions and every stakeholder here to use it. It is not limited to Europe. It can be used by everyone in the world. And I am confident that this will provide you with an additional opportunity to work together.
Thank you very much, Antonella. Now I would like to invite Mr. Franz Wolfmayr. You have been working a lot with the people to educate them as a teacher on social values, but also you had been the former president of European Association for Service Providers for People with Disabilities. I think during this forum we have been all the time saying no one should be left behind. What are the main highlights of this forum for you?
Thank you, Laurence. Before the forum, the panel before, brought me to start with a reminder. So many of here come from Europe, and I want to remind us, and I want to inform people from abroad that the European Union wants to be the strongest or one of the strongest economic regions in the world by letting no one behind. So that's a clear mission and a clear message, I think, and it's a clear philosophy behind compared to other regions in the world. And what is important for me is that the European Union developed legal instruments to do so. So the one is we have a Charter of Social Rights. We have an EU pillar of social rights. We have the EU and all the member states have signed and ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And these are strong legal instruments, and I think it is also worth in networks like GSEF to discuss about legal instruments. And for the Europeans, it's worth to discuss how we can make better use of them. I know, and my country, I come from Austria, is also one of the countries which is not following social developments and not supporting social solidarity enterprises at the moment. It's also a populistic government, but we have to come up and also as European umbrella networks, we have to come up with solutions, and I look to you. We have to do it together to discuss strategies about that. The second is the EU and the EU members developed the model of social states. And social states feel responsible for these people who cannot contribute their full capacity. And in Europe, we know we have around 15% of the population who live with a disability, and many of them need a kind of support or need special frameworks to be able to participate in the life. And only to show you some figures, only the more than 15,000 members in organizations we represent in EASPD have a turnover of 220 or more than 220 billion euros. So the EU countries invest a lot in doing that, but the question is, and this is one of the highlights I want to mention here, the question is, are we doing the right things? And are we doing it right? So this is the question of quality. And it was mentioned sometimes, and I want to highlight that, quality of social services is a bit different than quality of producing industrial or other technical tools. And together with other European networks, we developed with the EU Department of Standardization a voluntary quality framework for social services, and I would propose that it should be used worldwide. I think it's a good framework with principles, with quality principles, and it's not the time here to go into depth, but I want to name them. One is about availability of services of support, one is about accessibility and affordability, one is about person-centeredness. We were talking here social economy enterprises and social solidarity economy is about people, working with people and doing it for people. It is about comprehensiveness and about continuity and outcome orientation. And newly we developed the principle of co-production. It is more than cooperation. It is really the impact of social support is only possible if we co-produce it with the users. The second highlight I want to mention is the clear commitment of people who are responsible. And I think we have to learn that, and we know from some of our researches we made, the biggest hindrance in implementing human rights approaches in national policies is the not commitment of political leaders. And we have to work on that, and we have to develop strategies how to come to more commitment. And it is not cheaper not to be committed. It is very often much more expensive for social states not to be committed. So that's the second I want to mention, that we saw here very good examples of the mayor of Seoul or the mayor of Bilbao, but also the 30 representatives of cities at the beginning of this forum. The next highlight I want to mention was the one workshop about public procurement here. Each city and region has to invest a lot of money in infrastructure and services, and also we heard it in the panel before. And experience of successful cities and regions already shows that this money can be used to achieve a double effect: to buy the infrastructure in good quality and the services you need, and to achieve employment for persons for whom the labor market is too far away. So I think we have these good examples, and the workshop also showed that you can find such examples where you would not have expected it. I would not have expected to find such good examples, for example, in Quito. And also I want to mention, we were talking here about entrepreneurship. You find entrepreneurs also on the side of the cities. And it might be an interesting concept from time to time to to change roles. And the workshop about procurement also showed another example from UK, and it was about small local villages and how to use the concept of SSE to deal with local challenges. And it was mentioned by the speaker that social SSE is about people's need, dealing with people and acting for people. The locality model includes 600 entities and supports them to create answers for local challenges. It also shows up the impact of these economic activities, which are, for example, one invested pound in local social economy creates additional economical activities of around 2.5 pounds. And we need also research about that to convince regions. And the last point I want to mention, GSEF is a network of cities, but the representative of the European Commission at the beginning mentioned that in very soon time 60% of the population will live in cities. We can only stop this drain to the cities if we increase the life quality in the regions. And so it's not only, we cannot only focus to the big cities, we have really to focus on the whole countries. That's for the moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolfmayr. Now I would like to go to Ms. Marquis-Bissonnette, who is representing the mayor of city of Gatineau. Actually, that mayor was intending to come and he couldn't join us because there has been tremendous tornado which has caused a lot of damage in the city. I think I would like to take an opportunity on behalf of GSEF. We would like to express our solidarity and support to the city of Gatineau with all its inhabitants for your effort of rehabilitations. So what are your highlights of this forum?
Merci Laurence et merci pour les gens de Gatineau. Et considérez-vous tous salués pour le maire de Gatineau. Je sais qu'il regrette de ne pas pouvoir y être, mais effectivement, c'est important pour lui d'être auprès des Gatinois et des Gatinoises. En fait, j'ai divisé les moments forts de la conférence en deux catégories. D'abord sur la conférence, puis ensuite sur le contenu, sur ce que je retiendrai. Et je vais faire attention de ne pas répéter ce que les collègues ont dit. C'est super intéressant par contre. Donc sur la conférence, une des choses que c'est ma première participation au GSEF. Et en voyant le programme, peut-être que je n'étais pas la seule, mais je craignais que ça soit un peu général et que ça ne nous permette pas d'entrer en contact avec le vrai contenu puis de ramener après ça des connaissances à la maison. Mais force est de constater qu'on est tombé rapidement dans les connaissances concrètes, juste au bon niveau, juste au niveau où ça pouvait devenir intéressant pour nous d'exporter les connaissances à la maison. Entre autres, hier, j'ai participé à un panel et il y avait une dame de l'Union européenne qui parlait de l'immigration et de l'économie sociale. Je fais ma thèse de doctorat sur le rôle de l'immigration dans les villes et j'ai constaté en fait que le modèle de l'Union européenne était bien qu'il y avait ces différences, on pouvait tout à fait exporter un certain nombre de choses ou comparer, contraster un certain nombre de choses avec le cas du Canada et du Québec. Et donc, j'ai trouvé que pour une première participation, le GSEF est un endroit tout à fait accueillant. Ensuite, ce que j'ai remarqué, c'est l'intensité du réseautage. Et ça, je pense que c'est quelque chose d'important, que oui, on ait des panels, mais on ait aussi l'occasion après ça de discuter un à un. Et on a certainement tous un peu perdu du temps à se promener dans les escaliers puis tomber face à des murs qui nous empêchaient d'aller où on voulait. Mais sinon, moi, j'ai beaucoup apprécié ça, et notamment à cause de la diversité des participants, qui est extrêmement riche. Le panel précédent, il y avait une dame de Taipei. On a eu l'occasion de discuter aussi à l'extérieur du panel. Il y avait vraiment un échange riche à avoir, des liens qui pouvaient se créer. Et ça, c'est vraiment une occasion incroyable. Sur le contenu, plus de la conférence, j'ai retenu la nécessité de sensibiliser les jeunes tôt à l'économie sociale pour que ça apparaisse parmi, j'appellerais ça leur domaine des possibles, que ce soit au moment de faire leur achat comme consommateur, de se trouver un emploi ou même de démarrer une entreprise, que ça fasse partie du domaine des possibles qui considère l'économie sociale comme une possibilité, une façon de faire qui corresponde mieux à leurs valeurs. Donc, certainement, la nécessité de sensibiliser les jeunes tôt, et je pense qu'il y a d'ailleurs une nécessité dans des conférences comme celle-ci, puis en général dans l'économie sociale, une nécessité de ne pas les mettre de côté, de vraiment les intégrer, de s'assurer que ça soit toujours intergénérationnel. Pour moi, ça correspond aussi bien aux valeurs de l'économie sociale que d'échanger, que pas de mettre des barrières, mais bien d'intégrer les jeunes à tous les niveaux. Et je suis peut-être la plus jeune dans le panel aujourd'hui. Je suis contente d'être là. Merci de l'invitation.
Thank you very much, Madame Bissonnette.
Je peux rajouter quelques secondes,
Sorry.
oui, mais je vais en fait faire un dernier commentaire, puis je reviendrai plus tard. On remarque un peu partout dans le monde la hausse de la droite et même du populisme. Nous, au Québec, on a élu un gouvernement provincial lundi qui est probablement un gouvernement plus à droite de toute notre histoire, ou du moins depuis 50 ans. Et ça, on remarque ça partout dans le monde. Par contre, on remarque aussi que l'économie sociale, tous les indicateurs démontrent une hausse du nombre de personnes impliquées dans l'économie sociale. Chez nous, au Québec, c'est en forte croissance. Au GSEF, on remarque une diversité de gens de presque tous les continents, de plusieurs pays, une croissance du nombre de membres également. Et ça, pour moi, c'est quelque chose de rassurant. Merci.
Merci, merci, Madame Bissonnette. Alors maintenant, Professor Mendell, I think you had been the veteran of social economy movement for decades. What had been the highlight for you of this forum?
One highlight, which I wish was not a highlight, and I will just echo what was just said, and that is in Quebec now we can join the chorus of a few governments who have said they are suffering populist governments. We now have our own as of Monday of this week. But that will not diminish our work and our energy and our mobilization in the social economy. I had taken a lot of notes and wanted to present a few ideas, many of which have been already raised, so I won't repeat them. But the highlights for me, Laurence introduced me as a veteran of the social economy, which I proudly am. And I think that what I would like to share, and it's a personal reflection, is the growth of GSEF itself, which is a really young organization. We created this, and the we are many people. I was privileged to be among the we. In 2013, the idea was born, and it was officialized in the first forum in 2014. So this is a very young organization, and to be gathering 1,700 people from so many countries around the world, to have the representation of organizations, associations, local governments, supra-regional governments. We are in Europe, and it's really very important that many representatives from different divisions of the European Union and the European Commission participate in this, even though we are focusing on, in some cases, very micro experiences. This is not a micro issue. The social economy, social and solidarity economy, is a vision above all. It's a vision about democratizing the economy. It's a vision about greater social justice. It's a vision about embedding what we are now calling the SDGs, but for us, SDGs have been part of the DNA of the social economy since its inception. Now we are all countries are mobilized to achieve these SDGs. The social economy demonstrates that these are indivisible, and we have to fight hard and make sure that we don't silo the 17 goals, because if we silo the 17 goals, we cannot achieve the ensemble, which is about societal well-being. These are common goals. So I think that the highlight for me is this extraordinary capacity of GSEF to mobilize international organizations, the United Nations organizations, UNRISD, OECD, ILO, the many representatives from the European Commission, various governments, numerous mayors from many cities, and organizations, associations, and young people. And I'd like to echo, as one of the oldest, and perhaps the oldest at this panel, I would like to echo Maude's comment, and that we have to have intergenerational discussions, not only sessions that are organized by youth for youth. We have to be we have youth at our panel here. These have to be intergenerational discussions. And forgive me for giving you a very small anecdote from Quebec, but I think it's very revealing. And that is that as an elder, I was invited to work with young people to develop the first cooperative student housing in Canada. And some of them are here. I know Laurent Lévesque is here. I was absolutely, and continue to be, fascinated and so respectful of the business acumen, the knowledge, the collective intelligence that was brought to a very concrete project that mobilized an entire student association in my university to vote in favor of this. As a result of this one experience, there are now students across Canada that wish to learn from this and to create cooperative student housing. Student housing is a vital issue, I think, around the world. It is expensive, and we have to find affordable, quality residences for students, but also for students to participate collectively in this process. So I would make a plea that we have more intergenerational dialogues and not only sessions by and for youth at future GSEF meetings. The other plea I would like to make, we all go home, I think, stronger than when we arrived here, with greater capacity to leverage many more requests, demands on our respective governments, local, provincial in our case, and even national. But Antonella raised the issue of policy coherence. We've worked together on this issue for many years. And she was referring to the policy incoherence, which is generally the case, too often the case, between local, regional, national, and supranational governments. And it's not a deliberate exercise, it's a reality. But even within the local levels of administration in municipalities, there are embedded, historically entrenched rigidities, which I think even our most willing and collaborative representatives of cities that are here, and I think of ours, Montreal, are unable to really implement or exercise or even argue for when they get home because of these institutional rigidities that exist within public institutions. And I work in a public institution. Universities are very rigid, and these are historically established structures. As somebody mentioned, I think this was also a highlight, perhaps it was Jason this morning, that we are trapped by structures which inhibits our processes. If we're going to work on innovative processes, which I think is what we've all hoped that we could go home with, we find that we meet barriers. If we are only able to work with our local administrations that are, I would hate to use the word trapped, but perhaps it is the appropriate word, trapped by targeted programs, targeted divisions. It is very hard to work intersectorally. It is very hard to work horizontally. Everyone is favoring open innovation and social innovation, all levels of government. Where it is occurring the least is inside government. And once again, this is not because of a lack of willingness, it's because of historically established structures. So I think a highlight for me as I listened and was so enthusiastic by all the support and the mobilization and the collaboration that we hear from everyone, and we take off our hats, whether we are mayors or activists or university professors or researchers, I would like to hope that we can go home and begin to implement some of those proposals that we have co-designed together. And here I think as activists and people engaged in the social economy, we must help our partners inside these structures, and I include universities, to break down some of these walls and be able to work more flexibly, more horizontally, more collaboratively. And I have an oxymoron which I've been using, but how do we institutionalize flexibility? I think this is something that we should all, a question we should all go home with, even if it sounds rather absurd as an agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mendell. I would like to suggest to our panelists to go just the last question as concluding remark, because we are a little bit behind of time, and so I'm trying to reduce a little bit of the questions, and I would like to ask for your cooperation to be more concise and brief. I think that even though that we have lived this very interesting highlight and strong moment of this forum, but I have been moderating yesterday the section of social solidarity economy in Africa, and there are still so many actors and stakeholders who are engaged in the social economy struggling with lack of support, legal or political, institutional or financial and human resources. So what should be done to better support and accompany the growth of social economy, including those practitioners in the South, and what should be also our role of building international solidarity among practitioners? So I would like to invite Mr. García.
Thank you. Esta no es una pregunta nada fácil. Yo, por lo tanto, si me permites, y por si puede servir de referencia, explico la experiencia nuestra, las dificultades que hemos tenido, que seguimos teniendo para el desarrollo de este modelo. Y creo que básicamente hay tres aspectos que tienen que ser considerados. En mi intervención anterior he hablado de los temas de competitividad, cooperación, desde nuestros valores, algo más operativo que nos posibilite llegar y restricciones que tenemos. Yo incidiría primero en la necesidad de un reconocimiento social. Reconocimiento social. Las empresas de la economía social, las cooperativas, no hemos sido los causantes de esta terrible crisis económica que estamos viviendo. Hemos sido sufridores de la misma y hemos demostrado que nuestra capacidad de resistencia, nuestro compromiso con el empleo y con los compromisos sociales han dado una respuesta mejor que otro tipo de economías convencionales. En nuestros modelos sociales redistribuimos la riqueza en origen mediante la aplicación de unos modelos salariales solidarios, unos modelos que no demandarían tener que estar hablando continuamente de la redistribución de la renta. Es un error hablar de la redistribución de la renta. Redistribución implica un error en la distribución, una injusticia en la distribución original. Nuestro modelo promueve, vuelvo a insistir, en lo que es fundamental, la distribución, no la redistribución. En las cooperativas trabajamos con un objetivo, dejar una sociedad, una entidad más sana, mejor posicionados, para que cuando los que estamos en activo hoy nos retiramos, los socios que se han ido incorporando a la misma sigan defendiendo este modelo, sigan contribuyendo al compromiso social desde entidades sanas. Es un legado. Con estos conceptos que estoy comentando, creo que lo vinculaba al reconocimiento social. Si nuestro modelo no es un patrimonio de la sociedad, ¿cuál es? Y este reconocimiento creo que es muy importante, tanto que se dé desde la sociedad como de los poderes políticos. Cuando se defiende el patrimonio, se activan otras políticas, se activan otros mecanismos y actuamos en defensa del mismo. Un inciso. En España, antes de la crisis económica, el sector financiero estaba representado en el 50%, la mitad del sector financiero estaba representado por cajas de ahorro, organizaciones con enfoque social. Esta crisis económica ha hecho desaparecer este sector, salvo alguna excepción de aquí presente, las cajas vascas, que mantienen su modelo, el resto se han convertido, han sido absorbidas en banca. No es este el foro de analizar por qué ha sucedido pero traigo esto a colación porque el debate público ha estado más centrado en el costo del rescate financiero que en la preocupación por la gran pérdida de patrimonio social que ha originado esta crisis en estas entidades. Y eso es lo que no me gustaría que sucediera, que tengamos a la sociedad sin entender lo que representamos la economía social y lo que representamos el modelo de cooperativas en nuestro entorno. Segundo elemento importante que podría dar lugar también para debates interesantes es la gobernanza. Muchos de los modelos que tratamos de impulsar, participativos, democráticos, con buenas intenciones, encallan y se frustran en la gestión de la gobernanza de las entidades. Yo no tengo un modelo teórico de gobernanza para una entidad de economía social, pero puedo hablar de nuestra experiencia. En los 60 años desde que se inició la experiencia cooperativa de Mondragón, la gobernanza, las relaciones internas han sido una preocupación y una ocupación constante, una forma más de entender la gestión, integrándolo en el día a día. Es evolutivo, es cultural, es de paciencia, de dar los pasos, hay que adaptarlo a los cambios que se van produciendo. Lo que no ha cambiado en este periodo de 60 años son algunos factores determinantes de que esto funcione. La persona en el centro de la actividad empresarial. Lo colectivo prioriza a lo individual. Habilitar y estructurar líneas de participación de los socios. Transparencia y comunicación total, vivir la empresa y vivir los valores por todos los socios. Y formación no solo técnica, sino también formación cooperativa. Es en lo que seguimos basando, y digo, este es un modelo evolutivo no perfecto, hay que adaptarlo, pero creo que son unos elementos claves. Y finalmente, por no extenderme, tenemos lo que a todos nos preocupa, ¿no? Desarrollar este tipo de economía necesita una financiación. Bien, el primer tema en la financiación en nuestro caso, de cooperativas o de actividades de economía social, primero que hay que darnos cuenta es que es una limitación real, una limitación importante en el desarrollo de nuestras actividades. Reconocerlo no está mal, porque es una variable más de gestión en los desarrollos y planteamientos que hacemos. A partir de aquí tenemos que trabajar en minimizar este efecto, que no sea tan limitativo como para que nos bloquee. Y yo he insistido bastante en la primera parte de mi intervención en la competitividad. Nosotros no vamos a renunciar a los valores, pero tenemos que generar valor económico. Nuestras posibilidades de desarrollo dependen de los beneficios que obtengamos, que nuestra política, el 75% se capitalizan, se refuerza la situación financiera y es la principal fuente de financiación y de posibilidades del desarrollo futuro de nuestro modelo. A partir de aquí, tenemos que buscar instrumentos. Yo creo que ha habido una virtud en lo que ha sido un valor en el grupo cooperativo de Mondragón que ha posibilitado el desarrollo, más allá de haber podido coordinar un ecosistema en el que se dan cita la educación, la universidad, un potente grupo industrial de distribución, entidad financiera, investigación, es haber tenido la generosidad de todo el grupo, la generosidad a través de la intercooperación de generar instrumentos financieros de apoyo. Todas las cooperativas contribuyen con una parte de sus resultados a unos fondos que se administran en el conjunto de la corporación y que vienen a ayudar a aquellas cooperativas que atraviesan dificultades, ayudarles a superar estas dificultades o en apoyar proyectos de inversión que individualmente no se podrían abordar. No me voy a extender más, creo que son tres elementos importantes de contemplar en la sostenibilidad del sistema. Gracias.
I think the poll, for you, what should be done, especially also in the south?
Okay, I can sense that time is against us a little bit, so let me try to be as brief as possible, partly because the two things I wanted to say are sort of echoes of what have been said already. So what should be done to create an environment that's more supportive? My 2 points are leadership and policy coherence. And on leadership, clearly it's a bottom-up movement with practitioners existing at the local level. And yet I think what's clear from experience with Bilbao, with Seoul, with Liverpool, with Quebec City is that also those seeds grow if there is support also from the top and to encourage to create the right policy and institutional infrastructure. And in that context, the question then becomes, how do you persuade other leaders, other local governments, other administrations that are just not thinking about it? And they're busy, their resources are being squeezed, they're being asked to do more with less, and they face a lot of political pressures on social care, on health and education, on housing. And I think, my point is evidence can play a role here. Now, perhaps not as strong a role as we hoped or as it maybe used to do, in a sort of a post-fact environment, but having that concrete information about how the social economy can deliver on multiple objectives, not to replace the state or the local government, but to complement the state and to provide additional economic and social value. I think it's very, very important that we have that evidence base that allows that political conversation to take place. And then on policy coherence, I mean, we've heard already how policies may be incoherent within the local level and then between the local and national levels. Now, we can clearly do research on that, but also as a UN entity, we can try to support and explore the policy incoherence that exists at the global level. Now, GSEF can play a key role in this. The UN entities can play a key role in exploring whether global structures, global policies, the global discourse actually undermines the potential for the social economy at the national and local level, and then seek through dialogue with member states at the global level to alleviate some of those. And that relates to sort of international policies around trade, around intellectual property, around how we approach sustainable food, etc. And so just to conclude on GSEF, I think GSEF is playing a very helpful role, a central role in knowledge exchange. I think GSEF will continue to play a central role in supporting the expansion of that knowledge frontier. And I think, we talked about the engagement of young people in GSEF, in this forum, in social economy at the local level. My previous role in UNDP was to sort of try to get a global conversation going about the SDGs to feed into member states' discussions on what the SDGs should look like, and perhaps also to box them into something that was eventually more progressive. And one of the best examples I saw of coalitions working together was the Coalition on Aging and Older Persons working with the Coalition of Youth to essentially underpin the commitment to leaving no one behind. So I think this principle that's been mentioned before of intergenerational dialogue is incredibly important and something to take forward into the next GSEF.
Thank you very much, Paul. Now I would like to invite Mr. Markkula for the European Committee of Regions. What should be done more, including the international solidarity?
Okay, thank you. Just in brief, because Paul talked so much about the principles, the leadership importance and so on. So let's add some concrete kind of measures where, of course, development is needed and we need to extend both the quality and quantity of those. But first, around the Mediterranean. So we have one joint EU-Mediterranean local and regional assembly collaborating with the Arab countries as well. So the regions and cities like, and there we highlight this, what can be done. And this is a good topic to take more and more. There's this social entrepreneurship. Good example is one hand is what we have been doing, European cities along with Libya. Libyan cities, kind of Nicosia platform, increasing study visits, collaboration, training programs, so that we take not only the leaders, but people who do the practices there in some of those Libyan cities. They make visits, Murcia or some Belgium cities and so on. So we have had quite a lot of good results out of this on waste management, wastewater treatment, all of these kind of issues, which are concrete measures which the local people need and can see there. So, and why not then integrate more and more of what can they do, and this social entrepreneurship is a good instrument to that. Another example from those countries is with Tunis, where actually we've been mainly collaborating through the European Training Foundations, and partly then with the Joint Research Center, integrating the concept of smart specialization there. But in all of those cases, it's not only to recognize what is needed to be done, but how to do that in concrete terms. And there we need these communities of people, communities of practice, and their social entrepreneurship is one important element on that. So just to continue, learn from what has already been done, and we are to a certain extent now increasing this kind of activities in the Eastern Partnership countries, especially now with Ukraine, where we have financed by the EU, these kind of joint training programs, study visits, how to do the decentralized governance more effective. Just a week ago, I was chairing from the EU side a meeting in Kiev where we discussed very much about the education system and especially the role of schools. And on those, we can take these elements, what have been discussed here, more and more, make these concrete measures. Another important good, what came yesterday as well as a proposal, so because Committee of the Region, we have established 2010, already close to 10 years ago, a special concept, European Entrepreneurial Region Award, nominating through the certain election process, proposals coming from regions with a certain criteria, we analyze them, and then every year we have decided that these are the 3 regions for the next year to be awarded. But it's not only award as such, they commit on extensive implementation program, what they can do to encourage entrepreneurship, and then they organize workshops, and there is already quite extensive collaboration between those more than 20 regions who have already been awarded this. Yesterday came a good proposal that we've already actually been considering in some of our opinion processes. Why not to have the same kind of a concept for social entrepreneurship? So a special annual award with because in the jury itself, so we have different organizations from the European Union already integrated, so it's really mobilizing these concrete measures at the regional level. So this could be an additional good proposal that we need to jointly discuss how to do that. And then what I already mentioned, this innovation camps kind of concept that could be more encouraged and used so that all governance levels learn how to mobilize, how to develop the leadership elements, or how to use the OECD and the European Commission instrument, this new tool, because that's very much needed. So the methodology for good, deep-going self-assessment and step-by-step forward from that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Markkula. I think it's very interesting, and we look forward for the development of these European regions of social economy. And Antonella, from the perspective of OECD, what should be done?
I will again focus on public policies and the role of regional and cities government, of course. And I think that they should really invest in supporting a vibrant civil society They should invest in empowering citizens to take action and to participate in their public life, because this is also helping them to build the democracy they want to live in and benefit from. And also I think that there is a special role for universities and research, which is sometimes a bit neglected. But I do believe that although social economy is well known, there is still a lot of work to make it more visible, to help understand policymakers and even people what it is and what it can provide to improve our life. And I think that there is a role also for researchers and even for organizations such as OECD and others to do more work on measuring the impact of social economy. I will not enter in this debate because this is a very complex debate. What I want to say here is that social economy should use social impact measurement to raise its profile, to show what it can bring in terms of economic and social value that it provides. And automatically this becomes a tool for recognition and visibility. And I think that also getting back to the construction of the ecosystem, I want also touch upon on something which was mentioned by Paul Ladder, the importance of leadership, political leadership, especially at local level. And I do believe that this political leadership should be rooted in a vision on the role of social economy, and should stem from a sound understanding of what social economy can bring to locality. Because the reality is that only if policymakers understand that social economy can be a partner for them, to help them to address the many challenges and social and economic and environmental problems that they have to face, then once they have understood this, they can go for ecosystem that really responds to the needs of social economic. And of course, political leadership is essential, but it brings a great challenge and an important one. What happens when political leadership goes away due to electoral cycles, for instance? This is an important problem. So the challenge here is how to embed mechanisms, realities, ownership of social economy, which is local and which survive to the fact that a political leader may run away. And again, for this, the OECD has created a champion mayor initiative for inclusive growth, and the mayor of Seoul and the mayor of Bilbao are our champion, because they want to demonstrate their political leadership while sharing the experience, and also embed the reality of what it is done in a way that it stays even when they go away. So for me, this is really the message I want to say, is linking political leadership to collective ownership in the community, and also because this will ensure continuity in policies, and also the fact that the social economy becomes an asset in community might help reducing this geography of discontent, which ultimately results in this rise of populism that many countries are seeing now.
Thank you very much, Antonella. Mr. Wolfmayr, very briefly, what could be your concluding message?
Yes. Besides what was already said, I have 4 proposals what GSEF could do. The one is help civil society actors grow. We in EASPD did that in European countries to create partnerships, twinnings between around certain topics, between a more developed project and an enterprise who starts, for example. So create a kind of tool in GSEF about that. The second is help to organize these organizations in their countries. So we do that in EASPD by having a system of provider fora where the actors there can decide what is the main topic at the moment, and they can invite all the authorities and so on to work on a certain topic using international experience. It's cheap and it is very helpful. And then these organizations there, they are organized and will negotiate better with the authorities. The third is a leadership development tool. So we have developed an instrument to create the leaders for the sector of tomorrow, to help them to go. So we developed a training model, it's on the website. We have mentors for all these people who participate, and at the end, these are proud and good leaders. And the fourth proposal I want to make, it's make good examples visible and bring them together. So a very good example is from the Zero Project Foundation in Vienna. Every year they bring good examples around one topic to the UN in Vienna. And this is around 120 good examples. They are proud to be there. They produce a catalog for that, and others can read what is done. And it is really impressive to see what is done about employment, for example, in Africa or in somewhere in the world you wouldn't expect it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolfmayr. Now, je vous demande, Madame Marquis-Bissonnette, quel est votre message de conclusion?
J'ai 2 éléments simples, puis je pense que le premier va beaucoup rejoindre ce que Madame Noya avant moi a dit. Je pense que la façon de comprendre l'économie sociale, c'est la gouvernance multiniveau. Pour la mettre en place, pour qu'il y ait des modèles qui soient viables sur le long terme, pour que ça soit fertile aussi pour le développement de nouvelles entreprises. Donc, la gouvernance, ça implique pas juste des gouvernements, mais des citoyens. Puis l'économie sociale, c'est avant tout des citoyens. C'est du bottom-up, les idées doivent venir de la base, mais les gouvernements au niveau des niveaux supérieurs doivent travailler ensemble, doivent être complémentaires dans leur rôle pour soutenir les initiatives qui viennent de la population. La co-construction aussi est un élément important et il doit effectivement y avoir des joueurs dans cet écosystème-là qui s'assurent de faire du conseil, de la formation, de l'accompagnement à tous les niveaux durant les stages des entreprises. Le dernier élément que j'aimerais mentionner, c'est que je pense que, et là, il y a une belle diversité autour du panel ce matin parce qu'on est 4 femmes et 4 hommes. Et je pense que s'il y a bien un domaine qui ne peut pas se passer de la moitié des cerveaux, c'est bien de l'économie sociale. Et je parle des femmes, de la place des femmes, qui est importante à considérer pour l'avenir, entre autres pour le GSEF. Merci.
Merci, Maude. Now, yes, Professor Mendell, very briefly, what is your conclusion?
I will be very, very brief because it's all been said, but you made reference in your question to the Global South. And I think what we need to reinforce is to understand the great diversity that is the social and solidarity economy between the global north and the global south. It was raised in panels here, plenary panels, and also in a lot of sessions. For example, the informal economy, which is the social and solidarity economy reality in many countries in the global south. So I think we need to engage more in that conversation and that dialogue and understand those contexts that are not limitations, they are different realities. We talk about ecosystems. Well, an ecosystem comes from biodiversity. We have to be able to see the diversity of the different contexts in which we are working. And in that regard, I would strongly hope that GSEF, and I hate to add more work, but GSEF has had many dialogues that it has organized in between the global forums on policy in particular and in Asia. It would be very good to have a dialogue not necessarily focused on policy only, but on the global south. In Korea or elsewhere, where it is held does not matter. And also I would encourage more youth camps, which GSEF has also introduced, and to be able to fund internships for young people who could come from different countries in the global south and benefit from these learning experiences, not with the idea of importing what is done elsewhere, but from the idea of co-learning and adaptability of what they can adapt from what they learn back in their own contexts.
Thanks a lot, Professor Mendell. I think it has been a very rich and interesting panel. Let's give them once again a big applause for their contribution and participation.
Yes, well, we want to thank all the panelists through this GSEF 3 days in Bilbao, because now at this moment our notebooks are full of ideas and experiences, so thank you again for sharing your thoughts. Unfortunately, we are very late, so we don't have any coffee break right now, but you will have a coffee break after the closing session that will start in 5 minutes, so we will see you back right now.